Hey everybody, welcome back to another video here at homerecordingmadeeasy.com and here on my YouTube channel. And this time out, we're going to take a look at a cool utility plugin. I classify these kinds of plugins as more utility plugins, meaning that you don't use them all the time, but in certain mixes, you might have a need for something like this. This is by Waves. This is called the Submarine, and this is a subharmonic generator to help really bring out some of the subsonic frequencies in your tracks, things like kick drums and bass guitar, which we're going to listen to on it today. It's a pretty simple layout. It's been around for quite some time. It is similar into what something like R-Bass does by Waves as well, and I've done a YouTube video on that, but this is a little bit different than that. You can read the manuals between the two, but they kind of, in effect, do something similar. This has a little bit more control over it. So let's walk through the layout. We'll listen to it on a kick drum, on a bass guitar, and most importantly, in an entire mix, how you can apply this to a mix and not just solo on an individual track. Okay, so we're going to take a look at that and listen. But before we get to that, if this is your first time here, welcome to the homerecordingmadeeasy.com family. I want to give you a free gift, especially I want you to go to homerecordingmadeeasy.com. I want to give you a free mixing course right on the homepage. Go to the website, click the orange button, no fuss, no muss. You'll get an email with your download available to you. Free mixing course, my gift to you for visiting homerecordingmadeeasy.com. And while you're there, if you like the training and you want to pick up another one of my training courses, I want to give you a coupon code. That coupon code is YouTube25. If you use that into checkout, at the checkout screen, it'll take 25% off any one of the training courses on the website. All the links will be in the description box below. So here we are in Studio One. So here is Waves Submarine. So we're going to go and we're going to walk through the layout. Pretty simple layout, pretty easy to use. I'm going to show it to you here. So on the left-hand side, we have our input here. Pretty simple incoming signal. In the center here, we have sub 2 and sub 1. So sub 1 is going to be 1 octave lower than the frequency range that we select, which I'm going to show you in a second down here. Sub 2 is 2 octaves lower, and you can use them individually by turning them on and off here or together, okay? So we're going to take a look at that. So that's what you do, and you can go plus or minus 12 dB on each one of the octaves, okay? Beneath that, we have our range here, and this gives us the ability to focus in on the fundamental frequency of the track that we're listening to, to kind of find the range where the subharmonics will go lower 1 octave or 2 octaves to be the most effective. I'm going to show you how you do that in a minute. But you can just grab this slider and drag it around, or you can come down here and you can open up the range here as well and then drag it around, okay? So we'll take a look at all of that in a second. This goes from 20 hertz to 240 hertz max. It's not going to have upper frequencies. So typically you're going to use this on things like kick drums, maybe floor toms, maybe bass guitar, that kind of thing. Next to this, up here on the right side, we have our drive button. This is going to give us some harmonic distortion the more we drive it, and we'll test that out and see what it does, but it's going to give us some nice analog distortion kind of a thing. And you turn that on and off just by clicking right here, the little red light. Dynamics is the amount of compression that's applied to only the sub frequencies that it creates here, not the original audio. So in other words, if we have it on a kick drum, this is not going to add compression to your kick drum, the original signal, only to the octaves of the sub frequencies that it generates, okay? And we can play with that. Then we have a mix knob, a wet dry thing where you could do like kind of a parallel compression thing. And I'm going to show you how you use this completely at 100% wet to hear the fundamental frequency and to kind of dial in the range. And then lastly, we have our output, because if you are increasing, too much the subsonic frequencies, you may raise the overall output level, and then we can use that to dial it back to kind of level match the plugin. And then we have our output here. Simple. If you click over here on load on all the Waves plugins, there's a bunch of presets here that you can kind of start out with and kind of tweak. And then we have a bunch of famous engineers, their custom presets, whether they use the plugin or not. Okay, so that's what we have here. So what I've done, and now you have to really be listening to this. It's even more difficult for me to hear it on a good set of headphones, but certainly a good set of headphones or a good set of near fields. And if you have a subwoofer in your studio, this is where you're really going to hear it more than, if you're listening to it on a cheap set of earbuds and stuff, you may not hear the difference here so much. So just keep that in mind. But what I am going to do here, this is on our kick track here, which we're going to solo up here in a second. I'm going to bypass this. I also added an equalizer here, the FabFilter Pro Q, because it's got a nice spectrum analyzer here. And we're going to take a look at that so you can actually see what this thing is doing and the low frequencies that it's adding in the EQ curve, even if you can't hear it. So you may say, well, where would you use this kind of a thing? Well, This can be very helpful in a couple of different ways. If you're someone who mixes club music, dance music, rap music, things with really, really low end, things that are going to be played in a club, things that are going to be played on systems with big subwoofer systems, this can be very helpful to really give you that nice oomph on the bottom end, okay? Now keep in mind, you want to do this thing in a sparing way. This is another one of those plugins that you can overuse and really muddy up your mix. And Waves recommends in the manual that you only really use this on 1 or 2 tracks. This is not something you typically would want to use on a master bus, although I guess you could, but you really want to focus in on a couple of individual tracks. You don't want to put it across an entire mix or on too many individual tracks because you're really going to muddy up the bottom end. So you got to keep that in mind, but that's where you can use something like this. Also, even on like a pop rock track like this, if you had a source material where the recording of that material really didn't have any low end, or they rolled off too much top end or something like that, that you can bring back some of that stuff there, or enhance some of that stuff depending on how it was recorded. Or you could just add a little bit of oomph to the bottom end to help it maybe cut through on a smaller set of speaker systems. So there's several different ways you can use this. And again, it's not something I would use on every single mix, but let me show you how it works. So this is on our kick track here. Okay, here's our original kick. I'm in bypass mode right now. And you can see over here on the Pro Q here, okay, where the fundamental kind of lies here. You can see the frequency curve and where we are down here in the 20 to 30 hertz range. Not a ton of information there. Okay, so now the way I would use this to dial in and try to find, well, what range do we use? Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to bring this thing to, I said 100%. If this starts off here at 50-50, I turn this off. This is no processing at all. Now, if I want to know where to set this range, if I'm not sure where to set this range, there's a couple of things you can do. If you're not really sure, you can always go to the preset button and, say we want a heavy kick drum. It'll kind of preset things for you. Let's just try that to see what it does. Okay. So it added the sub 1, couple of dB, but it took away sub 2 quite a bit. And if we take a look at the graphic display here on the Pro Q when I bypass this, see what it does. You can hear it right around here, right around the 30 hertz range, right in this area here, okay, where my cursor is. Watch where that is when I bring it back in. Okay, you can see we're getting a little bit more, it's adding a little bit more bump here. Okay, so that's one way to do this if you just wanted a starting point, and then you can tweak this from here. So you wanted to add in more sub 1. I'm going to exaggerate it so maybe you can hear it better, but now you can start to see how much more low information's up here in this 20 hertz range up in here. It's before, after. You can really hear the real bottom subsonics. That's what this does. That's one way to kind of dial it in very quickly. The other thing you can do is we'll go to a full reset here where it's 0, 0. We'll turn this off here. Let's start with sub 1. And if we take our range here and we take our mix knob and dial it to 100% wet, when we play this back, now we're just hearing, as I move the range around, okay, you may or may not hear this depending on your speaker system. But even in my headphones, right around there, I start to hear where the fundamental kind of is, between about 57 and 88. So now if I were to bring this back to 50-50, and then I could dial up this, now that was for sub 1. Give it a little bit of bump. Okay, right around here, you can see it. I'll take it away. Right there. Just adds a little bit of oomph on the bottom. I'll exaggerate it for you. And you can see it in here on the Pro Q, so you can see what it's doing. It is absolutely adding that low end. Okay, take it away. Right around this 35, 40 hertz range. See it? Right? That's sub 1, 1 octave below this range. What if I just do sub 2? And now we're way down here, you know, in the below 20 hertz, which is kind of unusable, kind of nonsense to do that. Sub 2 would be something I might use on bass guitar, which we'll look at in a second. But let's turn up sub 1 a little bit. Let's add some drive and just see what that does. Come on. Hear a little light clipping now. Just a little bit, depending on how much of this stuff you add. Now we can also add some compression just to the low end, just to the subharmonics, just to sub 1. Okay, it gives it a little bit more thickness, just a tiny bit. I mean, it's subtle. Let's take it away. Before. After. Okay, hopefully you can hear again. You may not be able to hear this if you're listening to this on an iPhone. You won't hear this, but you can see it in the display, so you know it's there. And I could hear it on the headphones here. So on my near fields with my subwoofer, it's absolutely there. It's probably even a little too much. It's exaggerated a little bit so I could hear it in the cans. Now, practically, how would you use this? Well, let's bring the whole drum kit in. Let's listen to the whole drum kit with this on and off, just the drums. Before. After. Nice. Again, it's actually a little too much, but I'm exaggerating it for you for this video, so hopefully you could hear it. I would probably dial this back even a couple of dB, but definitely adds that nice little oomph. So if you got a weak sounding kick drum and you just need to bring up the bottom end a little bit, this is perfect, okay? Now let's listen to this on bass guitar. Let's do that, and then we're gonna listen to it as a whole mix plays to see how it kind of affects things. So I'm just gonna solo up the bass here. And same thing, I'm gonna open up a Pro Q here so we can see where we are. And then I'm gonna bring up Submarine, okay? It's in bypass mode right now. So I picked just a preset. Now again, we're gonna take let's go back to full reset here. Okay, we're the range. So now I'm gonna turn up the mix all the way to 100% wet. I'm gonna close down this range a bit. Okay, I can see it on the graphic display. Where do I hear that fundamental? Maybe we want to close this up a little bit more. Too low. Right there, probably around 80 to 120. I'll bring this back to 50-50. Okay, now let's add a little bit of sub 2. Let's see what happens. You can see it on the display, right? Right here, you can see it on the Pro Q. When I take it all the way out, look how much the low end drops off, so you can see what it's doing. Okay, we'll exaggerate it so we can hear it on our headphones here. Okay, that's sub 2. Let's add sub 1 too. Yeah, you can hear it a lot there. Let's drive it a little. Okay, we're going way heavier than we should be. That's okay though. Right, that's nonsense. That's way too much, okay? But in the context of a mix, I'm going to get rid of the Pro Q here for a minute. In the context of the mix, how does this bass cut through everything? Let's hear. So here's the whole track. As I pick up the pieces that are left of me, I'm all right. And you can see the output is so much higher than the input, and I should be level matching it, but I want us to be able to hear this over YouTube. Feel away from you, and I'll be fine. Cleaning up the corner, put it back in order. Okay, so you can absolutely hear what it's doing there in the context of a mix. Again, it's too much right now. So I would probably do something more along these lines. Okay, just a little bit of bump there. Now let's bring this up with the I'm going to resize this window so we have a little more real estate on the screen here. Let's bring in the one from the kick drum as well, and let's turn them both on and off just to see what happens. We'll bypass them both at the same time. As a matter of fact, we'll just drums and bass. That's before. Okay, that's what it does. I know the seasons right to change. It's changing all around. I know the reasons you've arranged. You're tapping me down. Where does the peacefulness of my... Okay, so I can absolutely hear a difference, and hopefully you can too on my headphones here. So this is also a good way to maybe, again, maybe checking as you're checking your mixes on several different speaker sources. You have your mains with your subwoofer, which is going to be slamming. And then you say, well, most music is consumed on smaller speaker, things like headphones, earbuds. The earbuds is going to have a real tough time hearing. Smaller speakers, those kinds of things. And this is a good way to kind of just check and just see, can you get the low end to kind of cut through a little bit more? Or again, do you have a track, like a kick drum track that was recorded pretty poorly and there's no low end in it at all? This might be a way to really help you with that as opposed to just using a sample. Or you can use a sample and blend it and then use something like this just to give it a little bit of oomph. Where will my heart come back to life? Okay, so that is the Waves Submarine. Again, you have to use this thing pretty sparingly because if you don't use it sparingly, it can muddy up a mix. Again, what we did today was exaggerated it so you could really hear what's going on if you're listening to it on an appropriate set of speakers. So that's kind of what it does. Again, and I put this in the utility plugin kind of category. There's several of reviews of different types of plugins that I call utility plugins where you don't use it all the time. But when you need it, it's something that can absolutely make a difference and can just give you what you need to kind of salvage a track or give you a little bit of that extra low end that you may need depending on the style of music that you're working on. So I want to thank you so much for stopping by today and watching the Waves Submarine plugin. Again, it was pretty cool, and you could get this on sale for, I think I picked it up for 25 bucks around the Black Friday sales. They're always putting these things on sale, Waves, and for 25 bucks, again, I think it's something worth at least looking at. If you don't have a sub-harmonic generator, this could be a really cool thing to check out. So I want to hear from you. Leave some comments below. Let me know. Do you have this particular plugin? There's other plugins on the market that do such a thing, add sub-harmonic generate frequencies, sub-harmonic generator. Do you use one? What do you use? What do you think about this plugin? Is it something you're willing to go out and invest some money in to have when you need it every once in a while? I'd be curious to know what you think. Okay, so leave some comments below. And again, certainly go out to homerecordingmadeeasy.com if you're someone that's new. Get your free mixing course. It's right on the homepage. No strings attached. I want to give you a free mixing course just to say thank you for visiting Home Recording Made Easy. And again, don't forget about the coupon code YouTube25. Again, all the links are in the description box below. And definitely go check out the Waves Submarine. And until the next video, I've been Dave with homerecordingmadeeasy.com and mixingmadeeasy.net. And I will see you very soon. Take care, everyone.